Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and today I'm thrilled to welcome the president of the Yiddish Book Center, Susan Bronson. Susan, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Wonderful to be here.
Well, we have a lot to cover, but before we get to the Yiddish Book Center at all, I want to go back with you. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Oh, really? Okay. Where?
Yeah. West 77th Street.
I know you can't tell from the accent, but I'm a New Yorker as well. But
Yeah. Well, I'm a New York born and bred. I went to public school. I spent my whole childhood in New York, so it's my hometown.
yeah, I'm a Brooklyn boy. So what was your family life like? I guess like in particular with regard to Judaism.
So I grew up in what I would consider sort of a quintessential 1960s, 1970s Jewish Upper West Side family.
Okay.
My grandparents lived in the same apartment building. It was a very, I felt very Jewish growing up, but I did not grow up in a religious home at all.
Okay.
It was very culturally Jewish. My father worked for the Metropolitan Opera. I was very
wow.
lucky that way. I got to go to all of the performances. My grandparents, were very interested in politics. We talked a lot about politics. They were very interested in Russia and the Soviet Union. There were a lot of sort of labor activists in the family. So it was sort of, I don't know, arts, left-wing politics, Upper West Side Jewish childhood.
Was your family from Russia, Soviet Union originally?
My grandparents, well, my grandmother was born in what is now Belarus.
Okay.
But she came as a baby. She was the youngest of seven, and her older sisters had come ahead. So she came as a baby. My grandfather was born in this country, but his family is from Romania. That was my paternal side. My maternal side was also from, Poland and what is now Ukraine. So, it's a mix of East European background. But none of my grandparents had any memory of
Wow.
their, the family life there. They were raised Americans.
Wow. Yeah. No, we have some. I mean, I have a lot of family from Russia as well.
Yeah.
Coming up, I used to hear whatever stories that David did remember as well. So was Yiddish spoken in your household a lot or no?
So no, absolutely not. My grandparents on my father's side, the ones who I spent so much time with because they lived in the same apartment building, they claimed not to know Yiddish, but then they spoke it when they didn't want me to understand. It's sort of the quintessential,
Right.
It's exactly of my generation. That was the way it was. If the grandparents spoke Yiddish, in most cases, it was often they wanted to keep the kids away from it
Right.
because why would they want to know Yiddish,
Sure. I had the same thing with Spanish growing up. My parents spoke Spanish until I started learning it, of course. Yes. So before we get to the center itself, I want to know, like, how did you first start coming to working there?
So I came to working there. My background, actually, I have a doctorate in Russian and Jewish history, and I was, working in New York for sort of an organization that worked on higher ed and education around the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe at that time. Then I moved to the Berkshires to marry my husband, the man who is now my husband, who lived in the Berkshires. And I ended up working in a lot of the arts organizations up here, doing arts management and fundraising work because there was nothing really in my field.
Mhm.
When a job at the Yiddish Book Center opened up as executive director position, it was the first time they'd hired an executive director, and I was really fortunate to land there. It was sort of a perfect marriage of my personal and academic background, and then a lot of my professional work in the arts, in higher ed, et cetera, et cetera.
So you moved there before the Yiddish Book Center. You didn't go.
Yes, indeed. I moved to the Berkshires, 28 years ago. I've been at the Yiddish Book Center for 15 years.
Well, so I before we started recording, I mentioned to you that I was at the Yiddish Book Center a few years ago through PJ Library. Such an incredible place, really is, and the grounds are like just gorgeous. But so the whole concept was started by Aaron Lansky. So can you talk first about how did the Yiddish Book Center come about? Can you go over its history a little bit for those?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's it's such a fascinating history and such an unlikely tale. Aaron Lansky who was our founder and who only recently retired as president, he was a graduate student up in McGill University up in Vermont, and he was studying Yiddish literature. And he and his fellow students were having trouble getting a hold of Yiddish books. And they discovered that a lot of them were being thrown away by people who no longer were speaking the language. So he decided that he would take a couple of years off to rescue what at the time was estimated to be about 70,000 Yiddish books.
Wow.
And he was going to take some time off to recover Yiddish books so that they shouldn't be thrown away. Well, here we are 45 years later, the Yiddish Book Center, what happened was the books started pouring in. He set up a network of volunteers to start collecting these books. It became clear very quickly that there were a lot more than 70,000 Yiddish books out there that people were willing to donate. Since that time, I mean, we say we've rescued more than 1.5 million books. It could be more than that. It's hard to know exactly. They continue to come in from all over the world. And, it started with the books, but then, I think Aaron very quickly realized that it wasn't enough just to rescue the books. I mean, what were they going to do? Just sit in some dusty basement and
he started rescuing the books without even a place for them yet, right? I mean, that's what.
Absolutely. They were like, he was storing them in his parents' house. He was, then he formed the nonprofit, the Yiddish Book Center, in 1980. Is when the center formed as a nonprofit. They found storage space for it. Aaron is an alum of Hampshire College in Amherst, and storage space was found nearby there because he had connections in the area, and he began to store the books there. The building that we have now, which is, as you say, a beautiful 45,000 square foot building in Amherst, opened up in 1997. So it was 17 years of collecting and just storing books before the center had its own building. I think what's most interesting and exciting about the Yiddish Book Center is that people think, they hear our name, or they think Yiddish books were just a dusty repository of old Yiddish books. We have so quickly expanded our mission to sort of what I like to say is metaphorically open up those books to expose people to the broader culture that's represented in the books. So all of the culture is what we're excited about presenting to the public. And we translate the books, we have exhibitions, we publish English translations, we have an oral history project. All of these things are designed to open up Yiddish culture to new generations.
Yeah, I want to ask about some of the projects, but yeah, again, I'm just reiterate, the grounds are amazing, and there were so many things going on at the same time. I mean, it's like when you look at it from the outside, I didn't realize how big it was inside, with so many places, so many people working there. I had such a great experience. Can you talk about Aaron himself a little bit, just what he's like?
Oh, well, Aaron, I think the fact that he accomplished this is sort of a testament to his energy, his optimism, and his personality and authenticity. I mean, he's just a terrific person who didn't have any idea that this is what would happen. He had a glimmer of a thought, I should rescue these books, but there was always something that was going to come next. And I think the success of the center is due in large part to his entrepreneurial spirit and his belief in the importance of Yiddish literature and culture, and not only preserving it, but in making sure that future generations are engaging with it in a meaningful way. Because if you've had any kind of Jewish education or Jewish background, I mean, I think you'll know that there's very little of this that's taught. And I don't mean the language, I mean the literature and the culture more broadly, which is kind of shocking considering that, 85% of American Jews have an Ashkenazi background. In other words, it's the history, it's most of our history as American Jews. Mm-hmm. And yet you could go through a Jewish day school or a supplemental school, Hebrew school, and know very, very little. You might not even be able to name the name of a Yiddish writer. Maybe you know Sholem Aleichem from Fiddler on the Roof. But you don't know that there's this incredible literature, there's this incredible history. And that's what we're trying to bring out to the world.
What's amazing is just, and I'm going to go more into that afterwards, but just how many Yiddish words are just in the common language right now, just because they've just
Sure.
seeped into like everything just for everyone to use right now. And so you became president, okay, recently. So first of all, like when did that happen? And like what are some of the responsibilities that come with that?
Well, it happened just like 2 weeks ago, officially.
Right, I
It's
saw.
been in the works for a couple of years. So but it just happened that I officially entered that role. Aaron officially retired on June 17th, and I'm officially the president, for the last
Congrats.
2 weeks.
Yes.
I mean, what comes with the role? Well, I mean, it's not a drastic change for me. I've been at the center 15 years. I've worked with our staff. I know our supporters. I've been I've been a close partner with Aaron as we've moved the institution forward the last 15 years. I think it most immediately, the change is that he's not by my side, and I am, I already have been out a lot representing the center. I mean, here I am with you, but I will be doing a lot more of that in the months and years to come because I'm now the head of the organization. In terms of my day-to-day work, I think I just have to be better at delegating. Let me put it that way.
It's tough when you first, especially when you first take over. You want to do
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. And I appreciate you coming again. But so I'll assume most people watching the show know what it is. But okay, but for those who don't know, can you explain what Yiddish is?
Well, Yiddish was a language spoken by East European Jews for something like 1,000 years. And it derives from Middle German, but it has a lot of other language influences, including Slavic languages and other languages, Hebrew and other languages. And until the Holocaust, millions of Jews spoke Yiddish. Um, Today, there are a lot of Haredi Hasidic communities speak Yiddish as their daily language. All right, so it's still a spoken language for many, many people, but the vast communities of Yiddish-speaking Jews in Eastern Europe were destroyed, were killed in the Holocaust, and and the Jews that left and ended up, whether it was ending up in the United States or Israel or Australia or South America or any of these other places, I mean, obviously they're no longer going to be speaking Yiddish, they're going to be speaking English. And of course, even before that, I mean, my family, as I indicated, I mean, there was this vast migration of East European Jews into the United States from the 1880s until the early 1920s when immigration was shut down. And a lot of those Jews were Yiddish-speaking Jews, and of course they were giving up Yiddish as they wanted to assimilate into American life. But Yiddish also spawned this incredible modern culture. I think what we really work hard to dispel is this sort of notion of Yiddish as just some funny words or some jokes from the Borscht Belt, or which of course it is, but it is such a rich and diverse and dynamic and modern culture. And there was theater. There were not just literature, I mean, the vast literature, an incredible literature. There was theater. Yiddish theater was huge. There, there's all kinds of music. I mean, people are familiar with some klezmer, but there's tons of music, Yiddish music, and Yiddish, was a very much a global culture because Jews who spoke Yiddish all over the world. And so the culture evolved really in dialogue with all the other cultures in which it existed. So it's fascinating, and we, work hard to provide a more expansive understanding of what Yiddish represents as a language and as a culture.
That's one of the things that you just said is very, very true because it did unify Jews like in a lot of different parts of the world, and where you might not necessarily speak English, you might not necessarily speak Hebrew, but they
Right.
did have the Yiddish in common that they were able to communicate with each other. And one of the things on your site that I saw, which struck me, is, and I used to hear it a lot, and I felt differently as a kid than I do now. It's on the site, it's written that there had been a feeling by some that Yiddish was irrelevant to current or future Jewish life. And I think, I don't know what your feelings are. I mean, obviously I do know what your feelings are, but I think as a kid, I might have felt that way, and I don't feel that way anymore.
Well, obviously, I don't think it's irrelevant. I
Right.
mean, look, it's understandable what happened. I mean, you had immigration and assimilation and the Holocaust and the founding of the state of Israel, where Hebrew was the it was decided on as the lingua franca. I mean, and for Yiddish was seen as a language of oppression, and people wanted to cast that off, and also, of course, many Jews came to Israel from non-Yiddish speaking Jewish communities, and so Hebrew could be a lingua franca. From the Mizrahi Jews and the Sephardi Jews and all of the other Jews who came to Israel would have Hebrew as a common language. So I think for good reason, it's understandable why sort of Yiddish was pushed to the side.
Mhm.
But I think what's happened not only was the language pushed to the side, but the whole story was pushed to the side. It's like, and I think what it's a lost opportunity. You think about the Jewish community, how everyone's pounding their chests about how to engage future generations in Jewish life. How do we get people committed? How do we get people excited? Well, certainly I think, you know, Judaism is a religion, and there are Jews who are religious, and certainly religious life is always going to be a pillar of Jewish life in one way or another. The Holocaust and the memory of the Holocaust is an important element of Jewish identity and connection. Israel, very important for the Jewish community writ large, in spite of the challenges we're facing today as a community, and the divisions in the community. But what we see here at the Yiddish Book Center is how inspired young people are when they learn about what Yiddish represents. And I don't just mean the language, because we recognize that many, many people will never learn the language. It's not like we're saying, okay, everyone has to go learn Yiddish. But there are many, many ways to engage with Yiddish culture, even without knowing the language. And, I want to see, we're trying to bring the content that's represented by Yiddish and by the books and, in the theater and in everything else that we have to offer. We want to see this in the places where Jews experience Jewish life. For one, for example, we want to see more of this taught in day schools. We want to see more of this in synagogue life, in other education. We want to attract more people to us. We want to tell more people about us. We're publishing Yiddish literature and translation so more people can read the literature. And I think it's also important for people who aren't Jewish as a way to understand who Jews are as a people. So, we have a program that we just got a very generous grant from the Lilly Endowment, which is a foundation that supports programs related to religion in American life.
Oh, great.
They're funding a program that we're doing for public libraries all over the country. We're going to be working in the next 3 years with 120 public libraries from all over the country, and they're going to be reading Yiddish literature and translation, but talking about it in the context of topics that they can relate to, whether that's immigration or or racism or anything, things that are common experiences of many different immigrant groups. And there's going to be a traveling exhibit with that and so forth. So I think there are a number of ways in which we feel that, far from being dead and irrelevant, there are so many reasons for Jewish organizations and Jewish individuals to think about how to more broadly embrace this history and culture, which is a part of who we are. And I'll say also, people ask me about, what about, Sephardic culture? What about Ladino? What about Mizrahi culture? And I think also, yes, we're the Yiddish Book Center, so that's what we represent. But I think it's also true that discussions of those cultures and experiences are totally underrepresented in people's education and understanding about Jewish life. So we believe in we believe that we need to embrace a broader scope of our own history if we want to understand ourselves and if we want other people to understand us better and not stereotype us.
Well, I think you hit a couple of great points there too, and that's why my feelings have changed. I think when I was younger, I did feel like that way. Like, well, Hebrew is our language now, and it's you don't need this anymore. And but then my feelings have changed growing up because one, well, Hebrew's ours, Yiddish is also ours, and it just strikes me as that it should not be something that was wiped out by the Holocaust. That because that they're the ones that are responsible for that. That everything has to be on our terms, and
Right.
it's important for us culturally. So I was also reading that. So the center has their own publishing imprint, White Goat Press. You mentioned
Yes.
a little bit. So what kind of things are published there, and is it a place where people can just submit things to, or is it the center just decides what they want to publish?
No, well, I'll start with the first. So with the second. So we have an open submission process. So if people are translating, if they're translators of Yiddish literature, they can submit their project to us for consideration for publication. Okay. So we have an open process. We review those submissions and then we decide what to publish. We're publishing a range of things for fiction and nonfiction, mostly novels, but other work as well. We recently published an incredible book called Warsaw Testament, which is the memoir of Rochel Auerbach, who was a part of a group in the Warsaw Ghetto called the Onyx Shabbos, which was documenting the experience of the Warsaw Ghetto when it was happening. And her writings, along with all these documents, were buried in milk cans when
Wow.
and she was one of the very few people who survived when she ended up in Israel, and she advocated tirelessly for these milk cans to be dug up and found. Most of them were, and her writings were in there. So that's a very quick explication of that. But we published this memoir, which is extraordinary because a lot of writing about the Holocaust was memories after the time. This is contemporaneous writing of her experience at the time. So that's one example. But we're also publishing, for example, a lot of work by women writers in Yiddish. They didn't receive their due during their time. People don't even know these women writers existed. And we're finding, these translators are discovering, because we've digitized thousands of Yiddish titles, which are available online for free, people who are interested in Yiddish literature are discovering these women writers who people today don't know about. So we published a novel called Desires, which is, they're these fascinating books. So we're about to publish a Yiddish detective stories that were read at the time. Spitzkopf was the name of the detective, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a very fun read. So it's a range of stuff. There's something for everybody. You can get them through our bookstore. We have an online store which sells not only our own imprint, but a lot of other Jewish and Yiddish literature. And our White Goat Press books are available there. So.
Oh, the memoir sounds fascinating, but the detective story sounds like a lot of fun too. Speaking of books, you have a library named after Steven Spielberg. So I just was he actively involved in some capacity?
So our digital library, our online library is the Spielberg Digital Yiddish Library because he made an initial donation to establish it. So that his foundation also, he has a foundation called the Righteous Persons Foundation, which also supported in its earlier years our translation initiative. We train translators, so his foundation supported that as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. So some of the different collections that you've seen, one of the things that fascinated me when I was looking through the museum were the old newspapers. You had a lot of like really old papers. Like where are some of them that came from that you have copies of there?
Oh gosh, well, we don't have a lot of newspapers. We have a lot of journals. So there were roughly 3,000 discrete journals published at any given time. What I mean by journals is like kind of magazines or literary, things that would come out monthly or weekly or bi-monthly. And there were roughly 3,000 of those over time. And we have quite a lot of those. They come from all over the world. We have, series from the Soviet Union, from South America, from all over. And the thing is, our collection comes to us only through donations. We don't go out and seek out things. people send us, and we accept all this stuff, and we go through it, and we preserve it, and we digitize it so that it's accessible. So that's kind of how it works for us.
Yeah. One of the things that I found really moving, and I don't know if this is a little bit what you covered already there too, but you have a lot of interviews, and among them I saw, besides current scholars, but you have interviews with many Holocaust survivors. And you have
Yes.
Leonard Nimoy too. Can you talk about that collection a little bit and how that
Yes,
started
yes.
coming?
Well, so 15 years ago, we have a fellowship program where we have people right out of college who come and work with us for a year.
Mhm.
And we had a fellow about 15 years ago who had this idea that we should start collecting Jewish stories, right? And do so in recorded interviews with not just survivors, but people who, yes, Holocaust survivors, but also people who have a background in Yiddish language and culture and history, who have interesting things to say about their lives or their parents' lives. And so we started collecting these. Her name is Crystal Whitney. She launched this project. And in the last 15 years, she and her team have collected more than 1,500 interviews from
Wow,
people
wow.
all over the world. They're 1 to 2 hours long, so that's a lot, right? And we've got people collecting. We've been in South America, we've been in South Africa, we've been in Eastern Europe, we've been in Israel, we've been all over the United States, and it's just a treasure trove because we have people like Leonard Nimoy, and that's a fabulous interview. We have Norman Lear, who recently passed away,
Wow.
and other celebrities, but we also have just ordinary people who have unique stories to tell, the kind of thing you don't find in a book.
Mhm.
And these things, many of these interviews are also searchable. So if you're interested in a particular topic or a town or a name, you can search for it, and the oral history that has that, it will come up where that appears in the oral history. So, it's just an incredible tool and resource. And I think it's going to be even more valuable over time
Oh,
because,
sure.
a lot of these people are elderly and they will be gone. And now we have their stories.
No, that's fantastic. That's one of the things that really, that's one of the things when I was doing the research for this that really struck me, that, what a great thing that is. So, and you still do interviews now, right? You still.
Yes, we do. We do. Yeah. So if anybody who's listening to this has, knows of someone, or they themselves think that they have a story that they want us to tell, they just need to get in touch with us, and we can talk to them about being interviewed for the project.
Oh, that's great. So, and speaking on the same type of subject there, you had another interesting collection that I saw of Yiskor books, like the David and Sylvia Steiner collection.
Yes.
Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, Yiskor books are the books that memorialize the various towns and shtetls in Eastern Europe that were destroyed in the Holocaust. And there's a collection of Yiskor books at New York Public Library. We had some, and working in collaboration with New York Public Library, we've digitized all of those, and they're available also on our website. And they're a resource for people who want to learn about their family background or about a town, or most of them are in Yiddish, so you have to know the language or know someone who can help you translate them. But they're quite a resource, and they're extremely valuable to preserve.
Just fantastic. So, you go out and pick up collections, right? Someone calls you and says, "I want to, I have this there. Would you be interested in getting this?" Right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, people come, they oftentimes an institution might call us and say, we're closing, or we're cleaning out our basement, and we have, X boxes of Yiddish books, and we have volunteers around the country and even around the world called Zomlers, which is, they were book peddlers back in the day, and they will often help us coordinate the shipping of books to the Yiddish Book Center. Oftentimes people just come to us with a box of books, and we pretty much accept all Yiddish books. We have multiple copies. It would be like if you wanted to collect, books in the United States, you'd have multiple copies of bestsellers. So we have multiple copies of
Hmm.
books that many people had, which we're happy to have because we can actually distribute some of those to other places that might want copies of those books. But yeah, that's how it works.
Are there any like unusual stories that about picking up some of the collections about where they were or anything?
Oh, well, I mean, there's plenty of unusual stories. I mean, Aaron went with one of our board members to the Soviet Union and back in the day. We've had fellows go down to Mexico City, and there was a school, a Yiddish school in Mexico City. Mexico City had a very big Yiddish speaking population and many Yiddish schools, and one of them was
The family's from
closing. And
Mexico, so yeah, I know
yeah,
that.
one of them was closing, and we sent people down there to go through the books. I mean, a lot of times books come to us, and we have our fellows that open up the boxes, and it's like a treasure hunt because we never know what's going to be in there. I mean, sometimes it's stuff we have, but oftentimes there's some treasure that we've never seen before, or something rare, and it's really it's incredible and it's exciting always to be able to just continually, even all these years later, to be discovering, unique and special treasures.
When we first started talking, and you said right behind you, which a little bit, there are new exhibits. I mean, when I went there, it was fantastic. You said there were so many new exhibits, and I saw one open last year about the Yiddish and global
That's
culture.
yes.
Right. So, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we're not just a repository of books. We have this beautiful building that you alluded to, and we host exhibitions. Our permanent exhibition is called Yiddish and Global Culture, which opened a little more than a year ago, and it is a broad overview of Yiddish around the world as a global culture. We have information about Yiddish theater and Yiddish press and politics and celebrities in the Yiddish world and Yiddish literature. And it's really, really fabulous and fun. We also host some traveling exhibits. And right now we have, a wonderful exhibit of Yiddish theater posters. We just participated in a project to rescue a mural from a former shul in North Adams, Massachusetts, a beautiful mural that we just hung in the Yiddish Book Center. And we're about to host next week our big music festival, our annual Yidstock Festival of New Yiddish Music, which is a 4-day festival, all kinds of Yiddish music and talks and workshops. And we still have tickets for that. So if anybody's in the area and wants to come, please come. So we do all kinds of things at the Yiddish Book Center, as well as just collect books.
Well, I saw that you had some of the programs that you've done. So you mentioned the music festival. Do you have what other programs are coming up?
Well, we run all kinds of education programs. We have college students on site right now. We have high school students coming. We run programs to train translators. We have a program we're bringing high school teachers to learn about how to bring Yiddish literature into Holocaust education. We also sometimes have talks and show movies at the Yiddish Book Center, and we have a lot online too for people who never are going to come. I mean, you mentioned the website. We do virtual public programs.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of resources on our website, for people who are not in the area and can't come to the area.
The website's also fantastic. Well, so
Yeah.
how can people, if someone wants to become involved, how can people do that and help with the museum?
Well, we have a membership program, and we love for people to become members. And all you do is go to our website, which is www.yiddishbookcenter.org, and you can become a member. And it's a $54 membership, and we publish a magazine. You get the magazine, which is a wonderful publication. You get discounts for our programs and in our bookstore. And most importantly, you get to help us and support the important work that we're doing. And so we're very fortunate. We have members all over the country and all over the world, and we need people to continue to support the work. Yeah.
So now, where exactly is the museum located for people who don't know, and how?
The Yiddish
can
Book
people
Center is
visit?
located in Amherst, Massachusetts, adjacent to the campus of Hampshire College. And so, we're about 2 hours from Boston, about 3 hours from New York. It's a great area to visit. So, or Hartford, we're about an hour from Hartford. So we love to host visitors. We have tours of our exhibits. We have all kinds of reasons to come and visit us. So we welcome you.
Open every day?
We're open every day except Saturday and Jewish and some national holidays. So do check our website before you show up.
So, and you mentioned the website, but are there any other social media accounts?
Yeah, we have a Facebook account and we have a Instagram account. Yeah.
Susan, I really want to thank you. I mean, I'll just vouch for it. It was such an incredible place. I felt like a little bit overwhelmed just looking at the history when I was there too. And you said it expanded since then. I can't wait to go back, but it was just really a fascinating place. And I really felt like, even if you're not Jewish, you should go, but especially if you are Jewish, it just like really like hits home a lot. But
Well,
thank you
thank
for
you.
coming.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jonathan. I really, really appreciate it. And it means a lot to have people interested in what we're doing and engaged with our work. So thanks for having me.
Well, again, this has been The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen. And again, a very special thanks to Susan Bronson. And go visit the Yiddish Book Center. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to The Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.